All right. Episode, I think we're up to 22 now of Both Laugh, the Dying Scene Quarantine Chats. We've got John from Dead Bars. John, how are you, sir? Thank you.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Our mutual friend Sal from Rebuilder has been pestering me off and on for a couple of years saying, you should talk to John from Dead Bars. You should talk to John from Dead Bars. But I feel like you talked to Carson maybe or somebody else from Dying Scene, so I didn't want to cross our streams that way or whatever. So this is cool.
I like Dying Scene. I follow the outlet, your publication, and I like what you guys put out. So thanks for having us.
I know that Carson, I was just speaking with him earlier today. I said, John from Dead Bars is coming on. He's like, that band is still my fucking favorite. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Carson's great, and I do think that the Dying Scene kind of audience, I feel like you guys definitely have been, reviewing us for a long time and promoting us, and it's been cool. Yeah, I think that your fans and our fans are much aligned. So that's really awesome.
We're happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. There aren't many of us left because, as you may have noticed, the site kind of crashed. But so we try to do it this way. Jacob and Bobby have the podcast thing that they do, the Dynasty Radio. So we're trying to keep at least a little bit of a presence out there while the smarter people work to actually rebuild the site.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, totally, man. I mean, I think for what we're all going through right now, I like the idea of doing, people doing more interviews, doing more podcasts. People got time on their hands, and it's fun to listen to. It's fun to go in depth with people and kind of see, different stuff than you would just get to read on a blog. So I think it's awesome.
And I didn't think I would like doing this sort of thing, especially with Zoom or whatever, but I've done hundreds of phone interviews over the years, but this is cool because especially now that we can't go out really anywhere, you get to actually see somebody and talk to them. And if I were trying to do just a regular podcast, my mind wanders, and so I'm drifting. Right. And so if an answer takes too long, then I'm probably not paying attention.
Right. No, this is great. This is awesome.
So how's quarantine been treating you, both personally and professionally?
It's been, it has its ups and downs personally. I mean, we had a lot of stuff get canceled this year, but I mean, everybody did. But I mean, we were looking forward to a lot of touring. We were still promoting our last album, Regulars, that came out last year. So this was still, kind of going to be a year of kind of touring off of that and promoting that. But yeah, I mean, other thing, I mean, I lost my job. I had to move. I had to do a whole bunch of stuff. But I mean, I'm working again now, and that's been good. And I'm relatively comfortable right now. So people have it a lot. People are going through a lot worse than I am right now, for sure. So I mean, I'm just really lucky that I have people that I got my band still, and I have opportunities to do stuff like this, and pretty thankful for stuff like that.
Do you have a job where you're able to stay home and work from home, or do you have to go out in the wild?
No, my day job is I work in a museum, so
okay.
So we were shut down for 6 or 7 months, so I just went back recently.
Oh wow.
We're open again.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, you're open for people to come in and visit, socially distant and all that stuff? Or?
Yeah, we have a reduced capacity and stuff.
Which
it's been fine. I mean, everything's been real. We took a lot of safety precautions, so it's been all good.
You're in Seattle still, yeah?
We are. I am personally in Seattle. Yeah, some folks live other places, but I live here.
How is the whole COVID thing in Seattle? I know you guys had it bad, especially before we did, but.
Yeah, we were kind of the first to get kind of hit. Actually, the last show we ever played, I see your T-shirt there, the Charlie's shirt.
Charlie's.
That's the last show that we played, which was in February. So really end of February, February 23rd or something like that.
24th. And the only reason I know that is that I didn't go to it because Chris Creswell was down and he was playing a solo gig at O'Brien's, and I had already committed to that. I was like, fuck, I can't be in both places at the same time.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I mean, it was super fun. I mean, it was packed house, sold out for, Charlie's is a small room, but, it was a packed show. And I remember, so that was February 24th. I remember I think we left the next day. That we flew out for that trip. So I remember like looking at my phone before we were getting on the plane to go back to Seattle, and I think it was like, oh, there's an outbreak in Seattle, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then it kind of snowballed from there, but I don't know. I mean, I would assume we're like every other major city where our cases are, like pretty steady, but also like we have a lot of them because there's a lot of people, but it's pretty, I mean, everyone's doing the best they can for the most part.
Are things trending back upwards there? Like our numbers have started to, over the last couple of weeks, climb, unfortunately.
I'm not even paying attention to that stuff anymore. I think
that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it's probably going up a little bit, but I mean, there's so many factors that go into that, like so many businesses started opening back up and stuff. So you're obviously going to get, some new cases. It's just inevitable. But I think that relatively speaking, it's pretty stable, I think.
Which is good. Knock on wood or whatever. Congrats on the live album.
I appreciate that.
It's really cool that a band put out a live album, especially a punk band. That's not a thing the way it used to be. It's pretty awesome. How did that come about?
That came about kind of by accident in many ways. We went out to the East Coast last year in March to open for the Bouncing Souls for their 30th anniversary show.
Finally.
It was just, it was super fun. It was great. And we went out there, we did the show, and everything was really great. And then 3 months later, we put out our album, our studio album. And then we started touring. And then when we played actually on that tour in February, this February, we played New York City, and I saw the same engineer that was our kind of monitor engineer for the Bouncing Soul show. He was at our show, and I said, hey man, like, how's everything going? I don't know if you remember me, John from Dead Bars. And he's like, oh yeah, man. He's like, I actually have a recording of your whole show on my hard drive at home. And, when I get a chance, I can send it over to you. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to hear that. So basically a year later, I found out that we even had a recording.
That's wild. So you had no idea he was recording at all?
No.
That's wild.
I didn't have any idea he was recording. Obviously, he was probably hired to record because the Bouncing Souls probably recorded their set, but he was recording us as well. So he had the recording, and basically I told you, like, I got home from that tour thing, COVID cases started happening. And then by 2 weeks later, everything was kind of down, beginning of March. And right around that time, I got a message from him. His name is John. You might know him. He actually plays he plays bass in Taking Meds and Such Gold.
Okay.
Well.
Yeah. I know who
he's
he
like
is.
He's a pretty awesome producer, great dude, but he's produced a lot of bands as well. So I knew that, I was happy to get this mix from him, and I listened to it, and I was, he sent it over, and he's like, hey man, this is not even really a mix. This is just like a rough mix. Check it out. If you want me to do anything with it, let me know, but otherwise you can keep this and just for fun. And so I listened to it, and I literally was like, I listened, whatever the set is, like 23 minutes, 24 minutes long. And I was just waiting for something to not sound right.
Yeah.
And I just like, I was at the end of it, it was over. And I was like, man, this sounds really good. nobody made any mistakes. Everything was well. It's just like everything was mic'd up really well. All the guitar sounds I thought were really good, and the drums sounded great. The vocals sounded great, and so I just asked him to do essentially a quick mix. I mean, I think I asked him to spend an hour on it, or maybe 2 hours. I don't know. I said just do a really, really basic mix so that it sounds, to the levels of where we need it. But I really like this. He did it. He sent it over, and I had no intention of actually releasing it. But I always want to have stuff, maybe you release it down the road. I always want to have stuff kind of like hanging out, ready to be used if necessary, or if an opportunity comes up. Right. Long story short, I realized that we were going to be canceling a lot of shows. I realized that we weren't going to be touring, and I went back and I listened to the mix again, and I was like, we should probably figure out a way to put this out, because it'll be a great way to kind of put something on the books for 2020 that is still like, interesting and still fun and still represents what you could have maybe seen if we were able to play. Right. And so I really just wanted to bring the live show to everybody that supported us for all those years, and just say, hey, this is a really cool opportunity that we got to play, and it sounds really good, and here it is. So that's how it came about. We weren't really planning on doing this at all.
Do you think it would have come out differently if you had been planning on it? Do you think it sounds good, but you also didn't know it was happening, which is sort of like the magic of the whole process?
Yeah, definitely. It probably wouldn't have come out as good. I completely agree. There was definitely a magic there of we were excited to be there. We had a lot of really good, obviously the sound at the venue sounded great. So when you are able to kind of hear everything how you want it to sound, and you feel very comfortable on stage, you play better. And so I think that it was a combination of those two things that really made it really special. And we just, we do work really hard to make sure that we, are putting on a good show. We practice, we really try to do our best. So I think it's a good representation of a Dead Bar show.
Absolutely. And the fact that it was opening for the Souls is sort of the cherry on top, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's that it's kind of become our thing, I guess. But really, what that was for me is more of just, it's like a childhood goal, right? I mean, it's I have, Dead Bars has other goals, for sure. We want to do this. We would like to do it, as much as we can, we would like to play as much as we can and record as much as we can, and play with, we want to play with bands that we respect. And this was just it's it was a catchy lyric, to put in a song. But yeah, it's definitely a childhood goal of mine, because I really respect the Bouncing Souls and what they've done, and to be there for their 30th anniversary kind of shows hey, this is possible. Dead Bars can be here, 30 more years we could be here too, and I think that way. I do think that we could be that band 30 years from now.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're from Jersey originally, right? So is there the sort of symmetry of being back home and the
I grew up there. I still have all my family lives there. I mean, I moved out to Seattle when I was 22, so a lot of my adult life, most of my adult life, I've lived out here in Seattle, and the band started here. We are a Seattle band, totally. But yeah, I mean, all my influences were a lot of the East Coast stuff, and yeah, I mean, that definitely influences a lot of what we do. That's why we go back a lot and play, because we have friends there, but also I think what we do really resonates with folks out, especially in the Northeast. We always have really good shows out in New York, and especially where you're at in Boston. But I know that a lot of bands from Seattle that tour, a lot of them, they struggle out there because it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And we happen to do really well. So I feel really good about where this band is at, and where, I hope we can keep the momentum going when we are able to get back to it.
Yeah, I feel like you, not just with Rebuilder, but I feel like Dead Bars are sort of kindred spirits with a lot of Boston area bands. And I don't know why, if that's sort of like a geography thing, but whether it's Save Ends or Choke Up or Bundles or bands like that, like I feel you guys are all sort of cut from the same cloth. So if I didn't know you were from Seattle, I feel like you'd be a perfect fit at O'Brien's like every week.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that definitely, we are a little bit of an outlier here in Seattle. We're not, I mean, like we have our fan base, and we have our crew and our scene for sure. But there's not many bands doing what we're doing out here. So I think it's a combination of having a similar sound to maybe some East Coast bands, but also being like somewhat exotic, where it's like, wow, like you're from 3,000 miles away, and you're out here, and we go there, we tour out there usually twice a year. We're out in the Northeast, so, and a lot of Seattle bands do not make it out there.
Right.
If they do, it's once a year at best. So yeah, I mean, I do feel there's a kindred spirit with a lot of our friends' bands, and definitely bands that we grew up with. You can't get some of that out of us,
Yeah, for sure. What brought you to Seattle in the first place at 22? Just something different, or?
It was, something different, really. It was kind of it was a perfect storm kind of situation. Like, I was 22, and I just graduated from college. I was playing in bands out on the East Coast, and it was just like, there was the 2008 financial crisis, and like people were like losing their jobs, and it was hard to find a job, and somebody getting out of school with no experience.
Right.
It was like, there wasn't really a lot of options for me. So I had to kind of make a choice to just like, basically like live at home with my parents or something, and like try to like make it work over there. Or I was like, this is a really like great opportunity to go somewhere different, and like maybe try to start a band, and try to do something that I probably would never be able to have the chance to just like pick up and move with. Like, I moved out here with no money, no job, nowhere to live.
Right.
Like I literally like lived like in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 people, sleeping on the floor for the first whatever 6 months that I lived here, because we were just like, like we found it on Craigslist, like month to month, like who would rent an apartment to 3 people with no jobs?
Yeah, right.
But they did, and that's how, that's how I had a roof over my head, and then I got a job and started a band and started another band, and I played drums in a lot of bands out here before starting Dead Bars, and I felt really good when Dead Bars started, because I really felt like this was finally like my project with my vision. And that's how I ended up out here. It was really just timing, really. I mean, and I love it out here, but I mean, I miss things about, the East Coast and stuff, but we travel enough back where I get my fix from touring, and I visit my family, every once in a while. So like, it's all good.
Why Seattle though? Did you throw darts at the map, or did you know people there? Or?
Good question. I guess I didn't answer the other question, but yeah. So when I decided that I wanted to like kind of go somewhere like different, I thought about, well, what's a city that has like a music scene?
Yeah.
That's like the first thing in my head, and specifically like what's a city that has a music scene that like I could like still play in a band, but also like go to work, a job.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really like want to like have to like drive an hour or 2 hours to play a show. I wanted to like live in the city, go 10 minutes down the street, play a show, go home, go to work, like, do the whole thing. So I was like, okay, I can move to New York, but at the time I was not interested in that. I live so close to there, like that it was like, I gotta I got to do something different. There was Chicago, there was Nashville, there's LA, and there's Seattle. That was it in my mind. Like I literally made like a list and I kind of like went all around and it's like LA, you kind of have to drive, which I did. I wanted to like live in like kind of a walking city. Nashville, it's like, yeah, there's not really the type of music I want to do. Chicago's too cold. And then like Seattle, I knew one person here.
Oh, okay.
And we flew out, me and my friends flew out to check it out. We were here for a weekend. And then I think after that, we just drove out here and came out here. So that's really the only reason. It was a combination of knowing one person and just a music town.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have done okay for yourself.
Yeah.
And then, so one of the things that I think is cool about Dead Bars, and maybe it's because of my age, I'm a few years older than you, but I grew up, like, Seattle was the music scene when I was in my formative years. So I've always sort of carried, and I get shit from people like Sal for my love of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and bands like that. So, but you ended up, long story short, getting to work with John and Dino on regulars. I don't know if people under 30 understand how cool that is for somebody that's like my age and grew up listening to Mudhoney and Mark Lanigan and Nirvana, obviously. But how did that come about?
So it's Jack and Dino. Sorry.
My fault.
It's okay. Yeah. So we did work with Jack. He is a producer he still lives, in one of the neighborhoods here in town. He's had the same studio for, over 20 years.
Yeah.
He is pretty accessible. I don't know. I can try to remember exactly how it happened, but I believe that I knew another band that had done a record with him, and I asked how their experience was, and they just said that they had an amazing experience, that he worked really quick, that he was really professional, and that everything sounded just really good with, he's like, yeah, they're basically, I think they said that they went and did it live in the room, or in the live room, tracked everything, and basically they said that they got a really good product from without that much like kind of production. They just said it just sounded good when we plugged in and we heard it back. Everything sounded great. So I really wanted to record everything live, and a lot of the studios that we had worked with before, we're a lot of home studios, and like they didn't really have the setup for us to do everything live the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I believe I just emailed him. I believe I just found his email on his, I think he has a website, and I think I found his email on the website, and we started talking, and he listened to our previous stuff, and he said he really liked our sound, and he really was like, yeah, he's like, I love this style. I think his quote was, I love a great pop hook with a bunch of bashing and screaming over it. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he really saw something in us that he could relate to. So we booked some time with him. We did it all the tracking in 2 days with him. All the music tracking. And then what ended up happening is that I went and did vocals with my friend at his studio and finished up the vocals there. And then we had actually Jay Moss from your area do the mixing. Yeah. But really, like all the live like I really just wanted, like his Jack and Dino's philosophy is really just capturing the band. He doesn't allow click tracks. He won't. Yeah, he does. He's like, if your drummer, he's like, your drummer is the click track.
Yeah.
So he's just old school, and I just like that. I like, I like that approach. And yeah, I mean, I would work with him again for sure. He was interesting, and you're totally right. I mean, like stories that he had were great about the old days,
Yeah. I know it makes me sound dated talking about music from the late 80s, early 90s, but there are some important bands that he worked with, not just in the Seattle scene, but people that he worked with is like staggering.
Yeah, so he was in a band called Skinyard.
Skinyard, yeah, with Matt Cameron.
Yeah, so he was in Skinyard, and that band was on Cruise Records, which was the SST
Yeah.
imprint. So I remember when we were there, we were talking to him a lot about like, what was Greg in like, you know?
Right.
And then they obviously like toured with All.
Yeah.
Bill Stevenson and his band. Like Jack and Dino said that Skinyard and All like would tour for like years together. They just like, he's like, they did every tour together.
Yeah.
So that was cool talking to him about that, because I think he gets a lot of questions about like Nirvana, obviously, which he likes talking. I mean, he loves talking about that stuff. And obviously he worked with Soundgarden and Mudhoney and all those bands that you mentioned. But even not just that, like there's records that I don't think people realize that he did like way past that. Like he did Murder City Devils, and a lot of stuff that
he did Valiant Thor, I think.
Yeah, and High on Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done High on Fire, which they just won a Grammy. I don't think for the record that like he did, but
really,
still, yeah, they won like the best metal.
Oh wow,
best metal album, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing that that's still a Grammy category.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome. That's they're a cool band. So yeah, it was great working with them. I would do it again if situation occurred.
Especially as a former drummer, is it nice to work with somebody who has like that old school mentality?
Yeah, I played drums on the record.
Oh, did you?
I played drums on regulars. Yeah, we were in between drummers.
Okay.
And basically how that went down was our original drummer, he still doesn't consider himself an original member because he joined the second show. But yeah, CJ, he left the band for a little bit. We got a new drummer. Then we lost a guitar player, and then CJ wanted to come back on guitar, so he came back. And then we lost a drummer again, and then instead we were already writing this new album, and we'd already gotten our bassist John Odo, and then we were working with what our current lineup is with Elliot, who's the other second guitar player, our other guitarist. And I was just like, I can do this. Like, I'll just let's just rehearse this together, and I'll play drums. So that's how we did it. We recorded it that way.
Okay.
So yeah, it was really cool because he's old school, and there was plenty of times where he was like, "You're going too fast," or he's like, "You sped up at this part, like bring it back a little bit." And all in all, it worked out really good. I'm very happy with the drums on regulars.
Did you end up tracking the music part live, essentially?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we overdubbed like what you would consider like guitar solos, stuff like that. Like we overdubbed some lead guitar parts, and we overdubbed the vocals, obviously because I was playing drums while we were doing it. But essentially, it's guitar, bass, and drums all live, and then everything else. No, we didn't edit anything really. Then we just overdubbed after that. So we basically like got the take, and then did it.
You didn't want to sing with like a Phil Collins microphone?
I didn't want to when we were recording. I mean, I have done it. We've played weird. Like Dead Bars has performed. I've done it just by myself. I played a show by myself. We've performed as a 2-piece, a 3-piece, a 4-piece, a 5-piece, and a 6-piece. So there's been plenty of times that I've played drums and sang. So
What was the 6-piece? Did you add keys?
No, we had 3 guitars.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's serious.
just like lots of guitars, man. Like all the guitars.
Yeah, I think I've seen Rebuilder in very similar, like 3-piece, 4-piece, 5-piece, like a few different keyboard players. I've seen Brandon play guitar and sing. I saw Harley play drum. Like it's the same sort of thing?
It's kind of cool. I like it. I mean, we have a core lineup now.
Yeah.
We've had a core lineup for a couple years. I would say for definitely 2 or 3 years has been like the same group.
Yeah.
But I like bringing people in and out. Kind of they add this like other kind of element to songs that you think that you know intimately, and then all of a sudden someone comes in and I mean, Sal's played with us too a couple times, and he's been the third guitar player with
Oh,
us.
right, right. Yeah.
You know, and he, you know, I mean, it's really just like, hey, he knows the songs, he's our friend.
Right.
Come on, you know, it's like what the old guys used to do. It's like
Right.
bring him on stage, you know, like
Right.
you know, I mean, like it does, in my opinion, it doesn't hurt anybody to just like, you know, you can tell that everyone's having fun. Especially, I mean, if he knows the songs and wants to sing, you know, come on up.
Well, and especially, I mean, I guess it probably helps that it's nobody's day job. So nobody has that sort of ego around that, like they own it. You're trying to take my baby away by coming in and playing extra guitar or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I don't think there's a lot of ego. I think what it is in the beginning, I was really, I would say, intense about like how I wanted things to be. And I was pretty strict about like how I wanted the guitars to sound and how I wanted the guitars to be played. Because, I mean, I wrote a lot of this. I write a lot of the songs, but I also write a lot of the guitar parts too.
Okay,
I mean, when I perform, I'm just the lead singer. But,
right.
You know, it's like with the drums, it's like I know how the drums are supposed to go.
Right.
With guitar, it's like I know how the guitar is supposed to go. But I've kind of chilled out a little bit because as we've kind of as members have come and gone,
Yeah.
the people that have come into the band have come in kind of like it's already an established kind of sound, and everyone's kind of like been already a fan of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So when they like their ideas are I celebrate them because like they are bringing stuff that I could never come up with, but it's still in the vein of what is considered like a dead bar sound.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the ego on my part went away, and I've been a lot more collaborative, which has helped, I think, expand our sound.
Is it, or was it, I guess, at first tough to, if you're writing a song and you're a drummer, is it tough to explain to other drummers how you want it to sound? Like, do you find yourself letting them play, or are you like sort of sort of the old Dave Grohl thing about the first couple of drummers, he'd just go back in and track their drum parts again because he knew he wasn't the Foo Fighters drummer, but he knew what he wanted the drums to sound like. Is there sort of like this pull to make it sound like this, or?
I mean, everyone that we've played with that has like actually toured with us and played with us, kind of, I don't have any problems with. They've all done such an awesome job. It's really only been 3 people, so for drums, and if four if you include me. But we definitely tried out some people. We did a couple like I guess open call like tryouts at one point years ago, and there was definitely some where I was like, this is just not going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that hopefully I don't have to deal with that anymore. I mean, we have a good group right now.
Yeah. So how much stuff did you guys have to cancel once COVID happened, and how early did you start canceling things? Because I know you got back to the West Coast in February, but what was the turnaround? When were you supposed to go back out?
We had to cancel a lot. We had a lot of stuff on the books, and we were paying attention to this way before everyone because we were booking our European tour in December. We were finishing booking that tour in like December, January, and we had the tour booked for April of 2020.
Oh,
so wow. When cases started popping up in Italy
Yeah.
in like January and February, whatever it was. I honestly can't remember. I think it was
I
January.
think you're right. Yeah.
We started paying attention and following it every day because we were like, we're supposed to be there in 3 months. I hope this doesn't get any worse. So we were following it for a long, long time, and we made the decision to cancel the European tour really early on. Like basically, I was following a band like Russian Circles and I think Torch. They were on tour in Europe in the beginning of March, and I remember following their Instagram while I was following the news about like what's going on, and I was like, they're in Greece right now. And long story short, like there was like lockdowns or restrictions put in place in Europe, and they had to come home. And once they came home, we made the decision to cancel. And then Trump announced like a whole like travel ban thing, and then it was like, well, now we really can't go. But we had already made the decision not to go when Torch and Russian Circles had to come home. I was like, oh, well, there's no way this is going to get better in a month. So that we had to cancel, and then we had a tour booked that for May with Red City Radio and Decent Criminal. That was, we were going to come through Boston too, or I forget where, Alston maybe, I'm not sure. I was still hopeful that was going to happen in March when we were canceling Europe. I was like, well, maybe by May this will be better. And then basically the decision was made to postpone a whole year back in May, which a lot of bands weren't doing. A lot of bands were trying to like postpone until the fall, till like right now essentially. And Red City decided to actually just postpone it a full year. So right now we are on the books for that tour, that same tour to happen in May of 2021. Whether or not that happens, I'm not sure, but we had rescheduled that all the way back in May. And then obviously the fest, we had that planned, and we had a couple other things planned too. So we had to cancel a lot. I mean, probably not as much as people that were like planning on being on the road, like, you know, full time this year, but that's a good, like,
that's a lot of dates. Yeah.
It's a good, probably like month and a half, 2 months of shows or something like that, which, you know, like, you're right. Like we're not full time. It's too full, you know, we work full time, and then, you know, 2 months on the road is a lot. So we were going to be juggling a lot already. But yeah, that's how it went down. So we're just kind of waiting.
How do you juggle that, by the way, as somebody who's never been on the road? How do you juggle having full-time jobs plus however many jobs are in the band that all the other guys have, with being on the road for 6 weeks a year or 8 weeks a year?
Yeah, I mean, we probably do about 6 weeks or a little more. That's about as much as we can do, which is, I think, like, you know, I think we are still very active. You know, we hit all the coasts once or twice a year. We try to go to every, you know, we try to do all the fests that we get asked to play. It's hard to juggle it. You really need to be dedicated. You need to have supportive job. You need to be open and you need to communicate with your job and tell them what's going on. And, you know, some of us have vacation time that we can maybe take. Some of us have arrangements, you know, where it's like unpaid time off. Some of us have like work for themselves, so they can kind of like structure it differently. Our drummer right now, he you know, he's like a full-time drummer essentially. So he you know, he teaches drum lessons, but then also like he was touring. He basically was touring with a lot of different acts and bands. So so he was really just like, just tell me what dates I need, and he was there. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I probably am the one that has the most restrictions, like being that I like work in a, you know, in a museum.
Right.
but I also have a good relationship there where they know that, like, this is kind of something that it's not, they know that it's not vacation
Yeah, right.
that I'm going on. So a lot of times, like, we just work out a deal, I just say, like, this is the time that I need. And then when I come back, I'll, finish up what I got to do. But you just you gotta work out deals, man. It's really hard. I mean, if you work, there's no way that people that work like, like a corporate job, like
Yeah.
could ever do that unless they can work from home. But a lot of times, like, we would probably need to work from the road or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. We all are very dedicated to doing it,
Has being forced to be off the road for what essentially will be like probably 15 months when all is said and done, at least, has that sort of changed the way you focus on the band? Or because I know that there are some bands that just sort of said, we're basically not really a thing anymore, and if we get back together after this, we get back together after this. But has it sort of like changed your convictions about having the band and making sure it stays a thing sort of in perpetuity?
It hasn't changed my convictions. What it has done is, I think, given us all an opportunity to, like, take a breath and, like, do a little, like, personal, like, reset. I mean, we were going pretty hard. It's like there wasn't a lot of time to, like, stop and think about what was going on in your personal life. Like, we all of us had, like, personal situations we were dealing with, like relationship issues, work issues, money issues.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so I think we're all kind of looking at this as a opportunity to get our personal shit, our personal affairs in order.
Right.
And, like, kind of pay off some bills. And we're still we're working on new stuff. We have a plan. Like, we have we have goals, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Like, we kind of have a plan that we want to do. This has definitely put a little, kind of halt in that plan. But I think the idea is that if we can all just, like, I mean, luckily, I will say, I think we're all working right now, back to work again. So the idea is, like, go back to work,
Yeah.
save money, pay off your bills, and then when everybody else is, really cash strapped, or, really dealing with, whatever's coming down the road, when we are able to play again, we'll be ready to go. And, we are lucky enough, I think, that we're not big enough where, that, like, we need the, like, I want to see these clubs succeed,
Yeah.
if for whatever reason, like, certain places close, like, I could call the hot dog cart, or the food truck in Omaha, Nebraska, or
Yeah.
whatever, some weird place that doesn't normally do shows, and just be like, hey, like, we're touring through, and we'll do a show here. And I feel like it'll just probably go back to how it was in the 80s, which, I mean, I wasn't around, but, like, I read a lot of stuff about, like, Black Flag, get in the van. I read, the Henry Rollins, like, kind of a diary stuff. And, they're just like, they show up to some place that's not even a real, it's not even a real venue. It's not even a hall. It might be some backyard, or some weird, basement or something. And it'll just have to be like that. I mean, I'm not, I want every place to succeed, but, we're gonna still be out there. And I think because we're, like, we can draw some folks, but it's not like we're bringing 1,000 people to a show, where we need that infrastructure right now. But I want everyone to succeed. I hope they get that bill passed, the Save Our Stages bill, to for these clubs, because I know that the whole infrastructure needs that. But for us, you'll see us wherever we can go, we'll be there.
Charlie's Kitchen is basically a hamburger joint that happens to do shows thanks to Daniel. So
right, exactly. Places like that are restaurants first, kind of first and foremost. They'll make it. I mean, it's gonna be rough for them, but they'll make it. and then if we're allowed to come back to places like that, like we'll be there, you know?
And I think thankfully that our scene, it will be sort of like it was in the 80s, except now we have the magic of the internet as well to be able to connect those things. But I think the underground web of our scene is sort of stable enough that there's enough people that know people that know people that you can call this guy, and it'll be a little bit of the old school networking, but probably easier to make some of those connections and make those things happen. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But
Yeah, I think so. I think that people that are in this for life, you know, like I am, and everyone else, a lot of people that that we interact with, like, this is just like something that you got to deal with, but we're going to keep going. I mean, there's no option not to. And
right.
I feel bad for bands that aren't going to make it through this, but that's, that's probably was a long time coming.
That could
But
be. Yeah, that could be. So you've been writing still throughout this whole thing? Has that sort of sparked your creativity in writing, or is
no,
no?
no, it hasn't at all. um, no, man. I mean, like, there's for me, uh, like I went through a lot of personal stuff, like this whole thing. Like I just got out of a relationship. I had to move. I lost my job. I can't see my family.
Yeah,
Like, I can't see my friends. Like my band, like, is geographically, like, we have people living in different places. So like we're not like functioning the way that like I would like to right now. Like
right.
we're doing a lot of like whatever Zoom and chatting and sending stuff back and forth. But no, I mean, like, it hasn't been inspiring at all for me. I mean, I wrote one song that I feel really good about during this quarantine. We had a couple like from last year, so we have a few songs but right now my goal is to try to just like keep it going in terms of like the process, like keep writing, even if stuff isn't inspiring or if it's not coming to the place where I really want it to be. If I keep doing that, like
Yeah,
shit's gonna start coming, and I'm gonna. I think that I have a couple ideas about where I want to take this next like album, and I think it's really just about finding that and defining that, and then once I define that, then I think it'll be a lot easier. But people that think that this has been like really good and
yeah,
inspirational, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I'm not inspired like sitting here, not interacting with anybody. And I mean, I've been watching a lot of movies. That's been really cool. Like I told you, like, we're all just like taking a deep
yeah,
breath and
right.
chilling out, and I'm not forcing anything. And the live record is actually supposed to be like, kind of the in between, where
Right.
it's like, that's a great thing that I even listen. I mean, I love listening to that. Like that
Yeah,
makes me happy. Like I put that on the other day. Like I love the way it came out. Um, so yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
I put it on again while I was making dinner tonight. I was like, this just sound. It's a really good sounding album, which it's
Yeah,
not like a bootleg from back in the day where somebody had a cassette recorder in their pocket. Like this is really cool. They did a really good job with it.
I appreciate that, man. I really like hearing those songs that are on the album, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Hear back.
I don't want to take up too much of your evening. I want to make sure